Scott Parker has got a job on turning it around, and he's got to turn it around sooner rather than later.
I love Grady Diangana. I think he's fantastic, but he's not quite got to grips with this Ismael system yet.
Justin, I mean this with the most respect. You are off your head if you think that.
Michael Keane, a very good ball playing defender. Ben Mee, a bit more of a no nonsense kind of guy. Perfectly balanced as all things should be.
As all things should be. Nice Thanos reference there. It's the fewest goals ever conceded in a championship season. 30 goals throughout the whole season, Justin. 30 goals. That is a ridiculous record. Well, how about that? It's Stopwatch time once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode. It's the Championship Show with a little twist. You ready, Justin? It's 5 topics, a 2-minute timer, and 2 hosts. You got there eventually. Well done, mate. We're Ryan and Justin from the Second Tier Podcast. Let's get right into it, Justin. Let's start with the top 2. Are Fulham and Bournemouth at risk of tailing off after no win in 4 for either side?
I think obviously if they continue not winning games, naturally they're going to tail off. But I think there's too much quality in both of these sides to do that. Obviously, Bournemouth starting to lose games, whereas Fulham aren't. I think it's just a bit of fine tuning for Fulham, so they can get back into winning ways. But for Bournemouth, there's a lot more work to do, players to come back. But I think the team that are most at risk of tailing off is probably Bournemouth out of those two sides.
I'd agree. I think Fulham haven't done too much wrong in recent weeks. I think they could have easily won some of the games that they've drawn in recent times. So I think Fulham will be all right. I think both are too good in terms of squad depth and the quality of players they've got to have too much of a troublesome run. But Bournemouth have looked a lot different, haven't they? They've looked a different side to the one that we saw earlier in the season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think they're not as efficient throughout the pitch. They're neither a brilliant side at attacking or a brilliant side at defending. They're somewhere in the middle, but at the moment they're not putting enough chances away and they're not keeping enough chances out. Obviously, teams are starting to work them out in terms of how they play against Bournemouth, but there's enough quality in that squad to turn it around. But as I say, it's just about turning it around. That's the hard bit. As soon as they get a win, I think they'll be fine.
The thing is with Bournemouth, the table's looking all right at the moment. It's looking like Bournemouth is still in the driver's seat for the other automatic promotion spot. If we're putting Fulham down as one team there who look very likely to be there, it's just if it carries on, then teams are starting to pick up a bit. You look at West Brom, for example. You look at teams further down the ladder. There are teams who are starting to gain momentum, whereas Bournemouth seem to be going the other way. So Bournemouth definitely at risk. Scott Parker has got a job on turning it around, and he's got to turn it around sooner rather than later. Justin, what's the next topic, please?
As we're one game shy of the halfway point of the season, which club has been the most frustrating to watch so far?
Well, Sheffield United. Simple as that, isn't it, really? Sheffield United, we all know how much quality they've got in their team. The number of players they've got, the likes of Brewster, McBurney, oh my God, Mousse. I mean, I'm just naming strikers at this point, but so many players who are really, really good players. Everyone knows how frustrating they've been. But now Paul Heckingbottom seems to be getting a tune out of them. Emphasis on seems. It has only been 2 games, but it looks like he's starting to get something out of this Sheffield United side. And hopefully that means they'll have a much brighter second half of the season than the first half, Justin. Would you agree with that?
I would certainly agree. I think Sheffield United are one of those teams, but the team I was going to pick was Luton. And the main reason is it's just putting chances away. They're a very, very good side. They're very good at creating chances. But if one thing's holding them back this season, it is scoring. They're one of the sides that are up there in terms of creating good goal scoring chances. They scored the most goals inside the 6-yard box throughout England, I think. Which means they're getting into good areas, but it's just not always working. And if there's one thing, as I say, holding them back from being a good side competing for the playoffs, it is converting chances, and that's really frustrated me so far.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think another thing that has let them down is how many goals they give away from the amount of chances they give away. So they don't give away many chances, but are giving away much more goals in comparison to other teams in the division. I don't think the form of Simon Sluga in the Luton goal has particularly helped things this season. I think he has had a poor season compared to his usual standards. I think he's got the lowest save percentage in the division for any goalkeeper, which is disappointing, but it shows that teams are being very clinical against them. and Luton haven't been very clinical against other teams. So yeah, they're definitely a frustrating side, but hopefully in the long term they will remedy that and we'll start to see them climb up the table. Carrying on from the same lines, Justin, which player has flattered to deceive in the opening half of the campaign for you?
I think the first player that comes to mind is probably Grady Diangana. I love Grady Diangana. I think he's fantastic, but he's not quite got in. He's not quite got to grips with this Ismael system yet, and what his role is within it. He's got all the ability in the world. He's probably one of the most talented players in the division in terms of getting at fullbacks and creating good chances for his teammates. But as I say, he's just not really fitted into this Ismael system, which is frustrating and disappointing to say because, as I say, he's got all the talent in the world.
100%. You look at the player that he was a couple of seasons ago. He was tearing defenders apart, wasn't he, with his pace, with his dribbling. Now he looks a player low on confidence, and we haven't really seen anything to consider that he is going to have a much better second half of the season, and that he is still the same player that we saw a couple of seasons ago. He's had a really tough years, both on and off the pitch, but I think without a doubt, he's the first player who comes to mind, isn't he, when you think of players who have flattered to deceive this season. And it is really disappointing because we all know what he is capable of. It's just we haven't seen it. I don't think the style of play particularly suits him. Of course, it's a lot more direct than many other managers in the division. But I think also he's been asked to play a bit narrower when I think he's the kind of player who likes to be out on the wing, hugging the touchline, isn't he?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as I say, you get the best out of Diangana when he's creating space out wide and he's getting in behind fullbacks. Whereas obviously with West Brom as well, because they play that long ball into space behind defences are going to drop deeper. That's going to give players like Diangana, even Callum Robertson, they're going to struggle to get at players and get in behind them because of, as I say, opposition are going to sit deeper against West Brom. So yeah, I think he's going to turn it around because he's got the ability to do it. It's just sad to see that he's not been able to pick up where he left off in the Championship because under Bilic he was fantastic.
A quick shout out as well for another player who's flattered to deceive in James Collins. Someone I feel like we haven't spoken about much so far this season, Justin, but I think he's been one of the most wasteful strikers in statistically in the whole division this season. Had a really good couple of seasons with Luton, but then has gone to Cardiff and has really struggled. As I say, been wasteful with his chances. We thought he may play alongside Kiefer Moore or at least be a solid backup, but has really struggled so far. Someone I thought would be actually quite a good signing, but has really struggled. Just the next topic, please.
Friday night's game sees Valerian Ismael return to Oakwell. How do you see the game panning out, and could Isbargi cause an upset?
I really can't see an upset here. I think Barnsley looks so far off causing any sort of upset that I will be. This will be the biggest shock of the season for me so far if Barnsley do pull off a win here, without a doubt. Because, as I say, they haven't looked close to winning a game. They've looked like they could maybe snatch a point from certain teams, but even then, that's a bit of a stretch. A win looks a long distance away for Barnsley at the moment. And coming up against Valerian Ismael, West Brom side who look a lot better, look like they're starting to have turned the corner and be the side that they were earlier in the season and many people are expecting to be across the course of the season. I really struggle to see them getting anything here, Justin.
I see an upset, and I'll tell you why. What better team or what better position to be in than coming up against a team who are managed by a former manager? So Ismail is a good coach, and he drilled that Barnsley team to perfection last season, and a lot of those players are still there. So for me, they know how to play that Ishmael system. So they're going to find weaknesses and they're going to find opportunities to exploit. So I honestly I can see an upset for Barnsley here, and as well as that, they have started to upturn performances a little bit under Aspargi as well.
Justin, I mean this with the most respect. You are off your head if you think that. Honestly, this will be the biggest shock of the season. It'll probably be one of the biggest shocks I've had in my time covering the Championship because Barnsley looks so far off it right now. I don't care if Valerian Ismael was their manager before. The players they've got now look low on confidence. I really struggle to see them getting anything from this game. And if anything, I think it could be a bit of a rout, despite West Brom having a bit of a problem with players missing through COVID. Justin, favourite bit of the show, it's the second tier retro. The question this week is this: who is the best centre-back partnership in Championship history?
So I've gone with Burnley's Michael Keane and Ben Mee of the 15-16 season, where Burnley were incredibly ruthless. Obviously, they just come down from the Premier League, so you expect them to struggle. But these two were just absolute monsters. They both chipped in with goals. They are perfectly balanced. Michael Keane, a very good ball-playing defender. Ben Mee, a bit more of a no-nonsense kind of guy. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
As all things should be. A nice Thanos reference there. Um, my best centre-back partnership, no question for me. As soon as I saw this question, first two players who came to my head, Yarma Wenny and Claude Davis at Preston from the 2004-05 season. These two were a brick wall. Or was it the 2005-06 season? I can't remember. Either way, these two were a brick wall at the heart of the Preston defence. It's the fewest goals ever conceded in a championship season. 30 goals throughout the whole season, Justin. 30 goals. That is a ridiculous record for 46 games in a championship season, honestly. These two, of course, they were helped by having two very solid fullbacks in Matt Hill and Graham Alexander alongside them, but two very, very solid centre-backs. Both had probably their best seasons, respectively, in this particular season, and helped Preston get to fourth place in the championship. Billy Davis was working wonders that season and was helped by having those two at the heart of everything they did. Do you have fond memories of Moretti and Davis?
I do. Yarma Wenny is, I think, one of the most underrated championship players in history. Claude Davis, not so much. He had a calamity in him, but that side was
This is coming from
incredibly
a
well
cynical
drilled.
Derby fan, ladies and gentlemen.
Obviously, but there's a few fans who may have experienced the full Claude Davis, but yeah, it's hard to separate those two from anyone else. Oh, it's easy to, actually, because they were so fantastic and ruthless. And under Billy Davis, he was a machine at keeping teams out. His teams were.
Yeah, just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, 30 goals from 46 games. Wow. I can't see anyone coming close to breaking that record. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen, episode 14 of the Stopwatch. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, especially a player who you think is flattered to deceive in the opening half of the championship. I'm really, really excited to see who you guys have to say on that one. Drop us a like as well if you've enjoyed, and please subscribe for more content like this. We've been the Second Tier Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Second Tier Pod. I'm Ryan Dilks1. That's Justin Peach 27, and we'll be back again very soon. Thank you for watching.